So, welcome everyone. For those of you who are live here, and for those of you who are watching this recording, this is an open house and kind of an information space for consciousness of radical equity leadership training that is starting on January 20th. Let me stop the share so we can see each other here. Hello.
Greetings.
Um, So my name is Aki. I am for this year lead faculty for the consciousness of radical equity. And also I have Ashni here who serves the same space with me. And I have a few folks who are joining to receive some information. So I'm really happy to be here with you. So, in Minka style of all things, I would like us to start with a little bit of grounding and meditation, and we get to know each other, and we also get to know what this consciousness of radical equity is all about. So I'm going to pass this on to you, Ashni.
Beautiful. Welcome. Blessings to you all in this moment, in this new time and space. Sandra Ashni, Kimberly Tiffany Messiah Itzel, the daughter of Cynthia and Alan. And I'm so grateful to be here with you to be introducing this magnificent, brilliant program, brilliant opportunity, CORE, Consciousness of Radical Equity. I'm really honored to be a part of this faculty and team, to be ushering you all into this space. And as a part of this core team, as you enter into this space, you being a part of ushering us into this new world that we're all living in. So I'm really grateful for this opportunity. And so we're going to start with a little bit of just grounding. And so I'll just ask you to just notice where you are. And that might be by taking a look around your space, seeing if there's windows, doors, exits, noticing, looking behind you, above you, below you. And just noticing where your body is, the points of contact that your body is making with what's holding you, seeing if you can find a little bit more ease and comfort in your body, however that looks and feels like to you. And when you feel ready, I'll invite you to soften your eyes, lower your eyes, or close your eyes, whatever feels most comfortable. And just begin to drop your attention inwards. We're still in winter, deep winter, as we like to say up here in Stockbridge, Muncie, Mohican land, where I am in Western Massachusetts. We're going into deep winter. And so it is still a time of incubation, hibernation. And so inviting you to start to go in, descend into the cave of your being, and just checking in with yourself, just noticing what it's like to drop in. Perhaps as you drop in, you might notice your breath. You might notice a space where you can soften a little bit. And just beginning to feel into the earth. And I like to say, the earth is everything. The earth is all around us. It's in everything that exists, including the things that are holding up your body, including the materials of your home. The earth exists in everything. And so just taking a moment now to just acknowledge the earth, the literal firmament that's holding up your body. noticing the element of air entering into your field and existing in your field as breath. Tuning into the waters of your being. You just had a Cancer full moon. So thinking about the waters of your being, your lifeblood, life force, your feelings, emotions, just noticing without needing to judge anything or change, just taking a moment to recognize that you have this water, that you have this breath, that the earth has you. And then connecting with that element of fire that we're going to be activating today in our space here. Fire, passion, purpose. Where are you feeling a sense of warmth, fire in your being? What needs a little bit of warmth in your being? And how can you, through your awareness, just fan that flame a little bit? Maybe through your breath, maybe just through your presence and being with. Then inviting you to just take a little deeper breath. Maybe letting your exhale be a little bit longer than your inhale. Seeing if your body needs a little stretch, a little wiggle, an adjustment. Taking a moment to just give thanks for your body for showing up in this space today, for being open to touching into the core of your own being, giving thanks to the elements earth, air, fire, water, all the four directions. And in true Minka fashion, I'm just going to pull a card for us to ground and anchor us today. And the card I'm pulling from this deck, Sacred Rebels by Alana Fairchild. I love this deck. We love Alana Fairchild, and just thinking about core, and the idea of like what it means to be a rebel, like a sacred rebel, not just going against, like just for the sake of going against, but understanding that there is a sacredness when we tap into our power and our potential, and kind of questioning or being in a space of, I guess, curiosity around the things, the systems, um, that we think of as normal. And what does it mean to challenge the things, maybe even challenge ourselves, um, in relationship to patterns, systems, ideas that we might have that can lead to our individual and collective elevation. So I love this deck. And the card that we got is Big Bold Vision. And so this is what we're about. This is where we're at with core. Big, bold vision. And it says, you are not born to play a small role in life. You have the ability to dream big. Even if you have absolutely no idea about how your visions can come to pass or what all the details may look like, you can access the heart and guts of a vision by tapping into your wildest dreams and surrendering attachment to exactly how it will all work out. The details are up to the creative genius of yourself and the universe. You are an active, contributing participant, but not the sole player in your life's journey. So I love this as a card for us, especially thinking about cores. Like, yes, we got it. We have our own individual, unique purpose and vision, but we can't do this alone. We have to be in this together. And so, the invocation or the healing process requires us to repeat a phrase, which I'll say aloud, and then we'll move on into our time together. It is, so you're going to repeat after me. I release
I release
all blocks to my vision.
all blocks to my vision.
I release
I release
all beliefs,
all beliefs,
conscious or unconscious,
conscious or unconscious,
stored in my body or mind
stored in my body or mind
that would have me
that would have me
belittle or minimize myself
belittle or minimize myself
out of fear or ignorance.
out of fear or ignorance.
I choose to be
I choose to be
bold,
bold,
big,
big,
and bright,
and bright,
to vision with my heart
to vision with my heart,
and receive all the genius
and receive all the genius
of the universe
of the universe
in supporting this vision in coming to life.
in supporting this vision in coming to life.
So be it.
So be it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Wow. It's so funny. I mean, it's not funny, I guess, but I was thinking, oh, maybe I should pull a card, and I didn't talk about it, but you did it. So that's just very perfect.
Yes.
It's always perfect. It always works itself out. So thank you, Ashley, for welcoming us, our bodies, and all the parts of us into this space. Again, my name is Aki. Aki Hirata is my birth name. I was born and raised on the island of Japan. And I am a founder of Minka Brooklyn. I carry the medicine name of Quetzal Yolotzin from Moon Dance tradition and Jewel Moon Medicine Woman from the Medicine Way tradition. And I'm very excited to be here today to talk about core, not simply because this is a brilliant program that we love, but also because Minka is turning 10 this year. And to me and to all of us who's working to create core, consciousness of radical equity leadership training really is the constellation and distillation of all the things that we have done in 10 years as a tangible form that we can pass on to all the folks that who wants to be a part of the ecosphere that is co-creating the harmonious future for all beings on this planet and maybe even beyond, right? So I just wanted to start us there and giving you a tremendous gratitude to be here to kind of talk about this and learn more about it. So this is a recorded session. So if you don't feel comfortable being on camera, you can feel free to have the camera off. And if you want to have questions answered, then you can also put it in a chat space and we'll be monitoring that in order for us to check throughout the time. For today, our time together, we want to talk about our 3 pillars of the principles that we work from. And we want to also talk about the methodology we use in this learning portal. Those 2 things will give you a good overall view of how you learn what you will learn, which is a little bit different from what you may expect from quote unquote educational space. And we're going to go into that more. And we're going to talk about what are the list of classes and who's teaching the course. And obviously, we're going to have a lot of question and answer time. So we will start. Before we go, any questions from any of you here before we go? No? All right. So we're going to start from the 3 pillars. Yes, Ashni will be leaving shortly to just kind of tend to other things. So, and she'll be back. Okay, so let's talk about the 3 pillars. So 3 pillars are the things that we find to be the core of this course itself, but also the reason why we do this course. Let me share here. present. So the three pillars of consciousness of radical equity is where the awareness meets our action. And three things are equity, spirituality, and embodiment. We actually look at these three things as a intersecting and informing each of the pillar in order for us to become whole. Equity, we define it as how the power moves, and it is not giving up authority, but it's about sharing it to create a system where accountability and decision making is flowing horizontally. And what this does is to allow wisdom from all sector of any organization, any group to come to the surface so we can actually create something that a top-down approach of the organization or community building does not quite get to experience. Ashni, do you want to share anything around that?
The three pillars. So thinking about pillars and things that hold us up, three is the most strong, one of the most strong foundations or shapes in sacred geometry. And so when we're looking at these three pillars, thinking about equity, spirituality, and embodiment, and we're starting with this at core, we're understanding that in order to actually create some of the changes that we want to see in our world, that these are really crucial keys. I like to think about, I can't remember who it was that said, if it's was it I can't, it was an amazing brilliant black woman, and maybe y'all will know, who said the master's tools will never destroy the master's house.
Audre Lorde?
Yes, I thought it was Audre Lorde, but I didn't want to misquote Audre
Yes.
Lorde. And so, it feels like, we're really at a really, for lack of a better word, like we're at a really dynamic time right now in history. And we're being faced with like hundreds of years of us being active participants in trying to, um, for lack of a better word, interrogate some of the systems that have created our current realities. Um, and within that, we also know that many of those voices, like Audre Lorde, like Frantz Fanon, like Sylvia Wynter, like so many people that we maybe even don't know the names of, have been pointing to certain things throughout time that are keys to us actually moving into a reality that we want, a more liberated reality. And I believe that part of what they are and have been sharing with us is rooted in these three pillars, in equity, spirituality, and embodiment. Our people have always showed us that it's not necessarily just about what we know. It's like how we walk with what we know, how we move with what we know, how we embody our values, and how we allow spirit to continue to guide us, to prepare the pathway where there is no pathway. Right now, I'm reading a book called The Conjuring of America by Lindsay Stewart. It's 400 years of Black women's magic, mojo, and mermaids. And they're talking about in that book how much, Southern, West African, Black, Black spirituality really shaped this country. And then I'm also going to bring in our Indigenous brothers and sisters. And again, like one of my Indigenous brothers, Sean Stevens, he speaks to the fact that we all have a level of indigeneity. And what we mean by that is that we have a knowledge and a knowing that exists within our consciousness that has not been colonized. And these three pillars, I believe, really are um, helping us to um, recognize the colonial structures that have been imposed on us, and through equity, through being guided and connecting to spirituality, through embodiment, and this is not the absolute, but definitely a part of it, that we can start to decolonialize our own body and being, and actually move in and step into um, being part of creating the world that we say that we want. And we have to, again, from posture to practice, from knowing to embodiment, to walk in the world that way. And it takes something. It takes building up a certain muscle, and this leadership program is really a part of that, building of that muscle, building of our collective and individual capacities to access both the freedom, the liberation, and love that we say that we want.
Mm. And I really love that you kind of ended with this idea of love, right? Because this idea of love is where this equity and spirituality meets. So spirituality can be spoken in many different ways and defined in many different ways. But for at Minka, where many people come together under very different spiritual practices, we look at spirituality not as a particular way of practice, but it is the connection that we get to feel where spirituality comes into play. So when we speak about equity, what we have to come to realize at some point is that empathy is a critical part of embodying equity. And in order for us to activate empathy in a truest form, we have to acknowledge shared humanity. And it is about interconnectedness of all beings that is present, right? So it's not about the sentiment, it's not about the posturing, it's not about the performance of spirituality that we often see out in the world, in the commercial world, that is, especially. But here, when we talk about spirituality, it is really a continued inquiry into how we are connected with one another, and how caring for one another is a spiritual practice, and how that is something that cannot be separated when we speak about equity and when we speak about the evolution of humankind, and when we quite honestly speak about the survival of human species at this moment. So this is not so much about your personal practice, and your personal practice is the grounding place into that. However, in this space called consciousness of radical equity, we are not asking you to practice anything in particular. We are asking you a question so you can deepen your own practice, whatever that might be, towards this understanding of connectedness and coherence within one another, so we can come together to create this new world that we would like to see. And now moving into this idea of embodiment, and I think embodiment is something that connects us to the methodology that we hold, but we're going to get there, right? One of the things that is lacking from our perspective and the conversations that we often have amongst faculties and community members at Minka is this part of embodiment. That now we live in a society, most things are instant. And when things don't come quick and quite honestly easy and without discomfort, we look at that as something that's too much or that's not worthy of doing. And the fact that we have not achieved the level of equity or a society in which all of us can show up fully and be received and be understood, there is a lack of embodiment in our commitment to the equity or even spirituality. So embodiment is the part where our information becomes a lived experience, right? It says turns awareness into practice. So we are taking the value, the information, the voice into how we live day to day. So this is when your belief system becomes an integrity and it becomes a day-to-day living. And this is where we start to be able to show up in a place as authentic being authentic to who we are without any, what is the word that we would use? Without any doubt of who we are, and still hold the possibility that more is there within the community that we can learn from, and we can learn from one another without erasing ourselves, right? So it's becoming more of who we are, but not as imposition to other people, but fully showing up as who we are and confident in that, so then we can allow everybody else to embody who they are just as much, and we can learn from one another. So let's stop right here with the 3 pillars. And I am curious to know from, the folks here, what kind of questions or what kind of thought comes to you, to your mind. And you can type it in the chat, or you can type it in, you can just mute and speak if that feels comfortable for you. Yeah, Emmy, please.
So one of the things that really made me want to join this information session and to learn more is that in writing the newsletter, having to actually sit there and read and intentionally read what CORE was all about. And it really feels like something that's leadership for not just the workplace or anything. It's leadership for the collective. It's leadership for within your own household, how to be a better sister, mother, father, anything, how to be a better friend in your friend group, and leading your community to just change and better living. So, yeah, that's really what stood out to me, even within the 3 pillars.
That's really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I think that really leads us to very important point of how we define leadership, right? I think that's what you were saying. I think oftentimes we look at this idea of leadership as someone who's on top, who's holds all the power, who has a certain position. But you are quite right, Emmy. This program is coined as a leadership program, and it is. And the authority we hold is to our integrity, to what we believe, and we know more about what we believe and why we believe and how we believe it and how we practice it. I often say we are all leaders in our own community, where that's your household, that's your family lineage, it's your friend group, it's workplace, it's, your own small organizing group, mutual aid group. And we cannot be the truly authentic version of a leader if we don't know ourselves. And I think another thing that's critical for us to talk about here is how we look at leadership. I'm gonna bring 2 terms. I mean 3, but really 2. One, we know leadership right now through very patriarchal form, meaning that it's somebody's on top, and that somebody tends to be most often white male in this society, or those who holds the value of white supremacist perspective. And it's a top-down approach, and it is through adherence to that power that you operate within whatever the system that is, right? Whether it's a family or workplace, right? And that has its place. And I'm not the type of person to say that's always bad, right? And the fact of the matter is, we are seeing that type of leadership being used against many different groups of people. And that power is used to take power away from those who's not in the leadership power, or hold a certain identity, or hold a certain belief system. So oftentimes people are like, so is it better to be a matriarchal? Now, matriarchy is still a hierarchical form. It's just a mother on top instead of father, patriarchy to matriarchy. That's the difference, right? And that's not necessarily what I believe to be the case. And this is not only my thing here. However, as a consensus in Minka Brooklyn, what we are looking at is more of a matrifocal way of leadership, where people who are mothers, children, elders, who are vulnerable, yet they hold tremendous importance to the group. Mother who would nurture, or parents, I can say, people who nurture, people who care, and those who are the future, those would be children. And elders, those are the wisdom keepers, right? Those people needs to be protected because they are also vulnerable from the aggressions and physical might. And structuring our organization with the understanding, protecting these beings and fostering their well-being is going to ripple outward, right? So no one is more important than the other. We all hold an importance in a group, right? We hold different powers within the group. However, we are thinking about what do we need to protect and preserve in order for us to have more healthier and harmonious version of the future, the expression of humanity, expression of our lives, right? So it's not top-down approach, but it's concentric in nature. We are all connected. We all are in a horizontal space where we all hold the power, but in how we exercise that power and what the specialty of that depends on who we are, right? And what we are. So thank you so much for that, Emmy, because that was a very important aspect of this that I'm really, I haven't spoken about, right? And Ray here is saying, I'm feeling into how this program is so important for harmony and cohesiveness in collective living and workspaces, and how it's such a practice of consistency. And I'm working a lot with care. A spiritual practice is one on equity. Such good conversation to have right now. Yeah. And I think in equity space or any leadership space, the idea of spirituality is sometimes a taboo subject, right? Because it is seen as something that, and it probably has a lot to do with some religious practices that is forced upon a lot of folks, right? So I want to definitely differentiate this idea of spirituality and religious practice. That's not mutually exclusive, but it is very different how we define it, because it's about based on certain ethos and principles of this spirituality. How do we show up, and how do we see the interconnectedness of human beings and living beings? And that's where we focus when we talk about spirituality. And spirituality is how we can practice that interconnectedness between one another, right? So yeah, that's there. Ashini, I know you have to go, but you're still here. I'm wondering if there's anything else you want to add before you move.
I did want to say something, because I think it's really important what you're speaking to, and thank you. Let me put my video on for a second.
Yeah.
What I wanted to speak to was the concept of power. And I
Yeah.
feel like within our Western context, like I feel like there's just been so much discussion about power and who has the power and all of these things. And when I'm thinking about like indigenous wisdoms and I'm like leaning into it, like power is both individual and collective, but power is something that we generate together. And really, I do not believe, and I wonder actually about, I'm in a really inquisitive space right now. So why our popular concept of power is so focused on power over rather than power with? And
Mhm.
I feel like, especially in this moment in time, and we'll get into like, and Aki's going to share, more about like what this actually looks like through our curriculum and through our flow and structure. But what does power with look like? Because our current structure and concept of power, like power being like power over this idea of hierarchy, the even patriarchy and matriarchy. Because when I think about matriarchy, I actually think more about like a circular thing. It's not like, the women were necessarily on top, but there was this sort of way of operating where there was a recognition. And when I think that people kind of replace patriarchy with matriarchy and they just kind of flip to the woman being on top, I don't necessarily know if that's what it was. I can't say also because I wasn't there. I'm also just basing it on my own understanding and research. But what I really feel that what we're trying to touch into and explore and be in the practice of with core is power with, because
Mhm.
we cannot have power without each other. Even this concept and ideal, quote unquote, of power relies on something outside of ourselves. And so power is a relative. It's relative. It's a position. I guess we put it into our language field as a positionality kind of thing. But I really feel that core, this particular program is really looking at power with, and is so necessary in this time where there is, a lot of these systems that have been put into place, and even hierarchy itself exist because that's a way to keep people feeling as if they don't have power or access to their own power or access to the powers that exist in the world that could help shift things. But we know and understand from our ancestors and from the folks that are very close to the land and the elements and the essences that we have power when we are together. There is power in numbers. Also the many movements understood this. It's not about power over, power with. And I feel that really core is really focused on cultivating the practice of being with power. And then also at the same time, um, having an analysis or critical, not critical, but like inquisitive, a curious, an invitation to be curious about the structures of power within our own life and how we relate to power within our own life, within our own spirit, and how that shapes our reality.
Thank you so much for that, because that's also a very important conversation to be had, right? Um, I forgot in which class that I talk about this, but when we think about power, oftentimes what we think about is the power that is socially assigned. And that's a power that can be taken away depending on where we are in the position, because it's situational. And to compare with that, there's also different kind of power which is inside of us. That's actually something that we cannot, no one can take that away from us. However, that we have been so ingrained to think power is something that exists outside, we end up giving away that power to what we consider to be the powerful, that we don't realize or we don't remember that the power we hold inside is forever and it's inherent unless we choose to give up, right? So there are two different sets of power: the socially assigned power versus personal power, right? So I think when we are talking about what Ashni was talking about is really what she was talking about. What I was saying is the matrifocal, right? Not matriarchy per se, because it's not hierarchical. It's a concentric circular focus, matrifocal kind of leadership. What it does is to remember that our power is there. Remember that our power is always here. And we are creating the reality where all those powers can be remembered. So together, we become so powerful that we haven't seen like anything like that just yet. right? So instead of having somebody hold all the powers and just feeding into that, what if we can all have all of that power within us, so we can come together as that powerful being to co-create something much bigger than an individual can make or small group of people can make. And that is really what Ashni is talking about here in terms of the power with, not power over. So thank you so much for that, because that's something that is very important to also talk about. Emmy and Ray, if anything else comes, please let me know. And if not, then I'm actually going to move into talking about our methodology. So we talked about 3 pillars, right? So now we are talking about methodology. And in what way do we do this so we can further connect with the idea and the principles of equity, spirituality, and embodiment? And very connected to the idea of embodiment as I was speaking before. All right, so let's share that real quickly. Okay, so methodology of consciousness of radical equity. Now, I can say this is resource, integrate, and apply, right? And most of us will think of this in a linear way. So we're going to resource first, and then we're going to integrate that, and we're going to apply. That may be true. But what I want us to know, and what's unique about the learning experience within consciousness of radical equity, is this transformation that moves in cycles, and it is not a linear process, right? Of course, we need to resource ourselves with knowledge and reflection, and also information, right? We resource that, we deposit information into us, and then we are going to use those information to integrate, right? But the thing is, as you integrate, you might actually still resource yourself, because you may be learning something within yourself that becomes even larger resource, right? And also, integration will not only happen on the space of reading something, but it is through embodied learning, such as somatic experiencing or breath work, or understanding how invisible world functions, and also through the dialogue and community building. Now, what's really important about community here and a dialogue and connection is that we become each other's mirror. And I'm pretty sure many of you have heard that. We try our best. I'm pretty sure those of you who are here, we try our best to have larger and larger perspective in lives, right? I'm 100% almost sure that that's how you want to live your life. However, we are always very limited to our lived experiences and very small pool of experiences that's close to us in terms of our perspectives. So when we are in a committed relationship, such as a cohort experience that we're going to have in consciousness of radical equity, what we get to have are these mirrors that's going to reflect back to you your action as an impact onto them, and their action as the impact onto you, and you get to see different side of how we are being, right? And that does not happen in a silo. That only happens in being together. So this is a methodology that is also based upon the community-based learning, where resourcing can be done by ourselves, but integration in a sense that can withstand the time and withstand being out in the world only comes through being with one another. and then that will be applied. And as you apply something, another question will come. So then question may need to be integrated through different conversation with different people, or you may need to resource yourself with different information now and reflect, so then you can integrate and apply again. So it is this circular way of learning that you continue to deepen as you go. So of course, we're going to have a curriculum that move you through from one subject to the next, to the next, and next. And what we want to remember is that we have laid these out for you in a way you can continue to resource, you can continue to have a space of integration, and that you get to live your life with this new information and with this new integration, so you can directly apply what you're learning out in your life, with your family, with your community, within your workspace, within your relationship. Then you can come back to resource back to the community, and you get resourced through everybody else's experience. And what's also very important when it comes to this methodology, and as you can imagine by now, that this part of embodiment takes practice. And that means it takes time. It takes space. It takes our nervous system to relax enough in a certain group, so then you get to learn what it means to be truly authentic within a group dynamic. Then therefore you can actually do the deeper work. So people will sometimes say, wow, 15 months, that's a long program. We have tried to make this program shorter. We tried to first fit it into 6 months. We tried to fit it into 9 months, and we couldn't. Because then we are actually cheating you from the precious time that it takes to be in a container, to orient your nervous system, to settle into the information, and to be able to be with one another in a way that is completely new from what we know to be quote unquote normal, right? Normal is what is existing, what has been existing. Normal doesn't mean it's the most efficient or most beneficial way for us to be. So in this way of learning, in this methodology, in this 15 months of time together, what we are creating is our new normal. Oftentimes, I'm going to stop sharing this. In this conversation, oftentimes I use the word matrix a lot, actually, because that's something that we all know, kind of, because from the popular culture of the movie Matrix. I think this is a moment where a lot of us are noticing that we are really living in this particular kind of matrix, right? And a lot of us want to move away from that matrix. And what we don't remember sometimes is that we are tribal beings, that we human beings are interconnected beings, that we need to be with one another, because that's basically what the matrix is. It's a connection, it's a web, it's a realm in which that we exist. We cannot be outside of matrix without being in something, because we are interconnected. We cannot survive alone. That's not how we are made, right? Even though this individualistic world will make you think that you can survive alone. But if you were to be out there completely alone, where would be the food be supplied? Where would be the power be supplied? Sure, you can be self-sustaining, but is it possible for us to completely be self-sustaining all by ourselves as an individual? I would say not. I would say not. So this is really about making a different version of the matrix that is kinder, that is more harmonious, that honors all of the humanness of who we are, and still be together, to grow together, to know that each of our essence, each of our power, each of our authenticity really matters to the vision of the collective. Because without all of us, it's going to be lacking something. It's going to be lacking that essence, that information, that perspective to be added, to be resourced into the collective. And we are deeply lacking that practice. And that is the reason why we have a program that is 15 months long, to be able to be in a practice. And I'm going to say this, it is not the most comfortable thing to do, because we are doing something completely new. We are doing something that we are not used to doing. That's basically what it is. And it takes practice. And it isn't comfortable for us to be in a place of not knowing how things are going or what the outcome is. And if we were to create something completely new, then we have to dedicate ourselves to that practice, to know that you are worth that investment, that we are all worth that investment. And if not now, then when would it be? Because we are experiencing something that's unprecedented, and we are being tested at this moment. And I think the test really is the question of whether we choose to be human. We choose humanity, we choose life over death. And this is a leadership for those who want to choose life, who want to choose humanity, who want to choose that we can be harmonious together. And I can say that is something that we have practiced at Minka for over the past 10 years. And we can do this because we have done this. And, I don't want to be the one to say that I'm the authority of everyone, and I do not believe that. And I can say very confidently that we have practiced this over 10 years, and we know that this exists. This can exist, and we continue to practice day to day in this way. And we just want folks to be able to experience how beautiful this feels because we love us. And I want more of us to understand that how beautiful and how easy this can be, how liberation can feel like in a group, right? So I want to open the space to you, Ray and Emmy, to see if there's anything else that you want to ask about methodologies or anything else before we move into the program layout. No?
I feel this was really clear. Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much. And if at any point the question comes up, feel free to ask me. Okay, so let's talk about the okay, hold on one second. I'm just going to zoom into this page. It's a different form of the share, but I want to share with you the program and the flow of the program. And I'm pulling this, it looks a little bit different because I'm pulling this from our field guide. So when you sign up, you receive a field guide where all the informations are laid out, as well as some prompt for self-reflection and all of that. I'm really excited for this particular version of the field guide. So this is the curriculum, right? The module will start with Awakening the Beginner's Mind. That is the orientation that starts on the January 20th. And we have 2 sessions, 20th and 27th. And then we're going to move into Ancestral Reverence with Baba and Ashni. And in that, what we do is to kind of connect with not only who we are, but also whose we are. This is a quote from one of our faculty, Milta, Vega Cardona, she always talks about it is not important who I am, but whose I am, right? The connection in which we have been preyed upon to be here, that we are our ancestors' dream, that we have not the benefit and also the responsibility of being the descendants of those who have survived. And what is the choice we make? And be able to root ourselves in their blessings through this practice of ancestral reverence and talking about what that can look like for you. And there would be experience and examples of what that looks like for Baba and Ashni. And then if you don't have a practice, then there would be guideline on how to start that. And if you have one, then there would be more information on how to deepen that. Right. And once we root ourselves to that, then we go into the history of race by Milta Vega Cardona. She has been she's a veteran of anti-racism conversation, and she has been our mentor for many years, and she has been a core faculty, core trainer for People's Institute for Survival and Beyond for many years. And she's bringing her experience and all of her spiritual practice that root her in anti-racism training to be in this space. After that, we're going to have Restoring Goodness. That is a resource session where Ashni will teach us how to use somatic experiencing to navigate difficult conversation when our triggers arise, and how to move through grief that is inevitable in learning this history that is very painful to come to face, right? So these resource sessions are offered throughout for you to learn how to navigate different information. So we tend to pair these different intellectual portion with something very somatic, body-based, integration-based information. So you get to continue to deepen without spiraling into our shame and guilt spiral or rage spiral, right? But rather learn how to navigate information as it comes. That's also part of the methodology of resource integrate and apply. And after Restoring Goodness, I will be teaching this demystifying energy. So in that, we are talking about invisible force that is at play when we are talking about connection, when we are talking about interconnectedness, and when we are talking about equity and embodiment. And then after that, we are moving into ecological consciousness and reciprocity. And in that, we learn what it means to look at our psychology from a nature-based, indigenous-based practice. And this is taught by Lindsay Font-Leroy. She is a PhD candidate at the moment to do this depth psychology through the understanding of indigenous psychology and nature-based psychology. It's going to be a very beautiful treat for you to understand how to look at psychology differently and how to look at the Western psychology and indigenous psychology together. It's not about demonizing one or the other or throwing away one or the other. We are at this point where we have information from many different perspectives. So it's really about putting it together in a way that serves us, serves humanity, serves our interconnectedness, right? And from that, we are going into radical ethics with Janalyn Wimpig, who's been a longtime community organizer and who has been in a director position at El Puente for many years, and also a creative. So here we are talking about ethics from that perspective of where the loyalty lies, right? Because ethics is not necessarily, I wouldn't say this. ethics does not have to be just obeying the law. When we talk about radical ethics, we talk about questioning where our loyalties lie and what is it that we are upholding. So sometimes the law of the land may not be upholding the humanity. Then actually it is our responsibility to question and to have a dialogue upon that loyalty in which that we are basing our humanities upon, right? And then we goes into when appreciation goes wrong. I will co-teach with Lindsay Font-Leroy. This is when we talk about decolonization through the understanding of how cultural appropriation happens instead of cultural appreciation. And we go deeply into the psyche of white supremacist culture and patriarchy, and we will decode how to see, how to be, and give you a framework of how to analyze what we do from this lens so we can start to deconstruct what you do or what you think as normal, and we can refine it to match our belief system, match our updated integrity, and match our vision. So this is a conversation of obviously resourcing with what and integrating through conversation, but this is also about application into who you are becoming. So what we are doing is also reducing the glitch in between what you know and how we show up, right? There is sometimes what I know, but sometimes how I show up might not be matching what I know. And this is more of an information-based session for you to have a way to understand why this glitch happens, so you can start to apply the information to update your action. And then we go into the beautiful resource session of foundational breath and understand how to use the breath to resource, to regulate, to calm our nervous system, and what you can do when we feel triggered, when we feel that we are challenged. And then again, going into archetypal racism, Lindsay's going to teach that along with me. And so we are talking about not the informational aspects of the racism or equity conversation, but this is a subconscious action that we come to bring to the table through the lens of Jungian, Carl Jung's understanding of archetypes in our subconscious and how that leads to a certain way of behavior. And this is going to be a very beautiful, beautiful session of further understanding how we show up and what we can do to move beyond that, right? And then we move on to We Want to Be Well. That is about healing justice and disability justice, taught by Alison Reba, longtime community organizer, have been with Minka since the very beginning. And then going into Beyond Capitalism, taught by Omar Ferreira. In this, we touch upon, so if we are moving beyond extractive capitalism, what is there? How can we think about our livelihood, and in what way can we do this? If we are to not practice extractive capitalism, what does it look like? And he is a long-time educator on cooperative economics, and he does this for global as well as local framework. So you get to ask a lot of questions, and this can be a very new information for so many of us. And I believe that this can also create new way of connecting with one another, a new way to bring forward within the organization. And this is not necessarily what you may do the day after, but to have a framework of where to go and how to have conversation. and who to coach to, right? All these faculties are people you get to spend time with, meaning that you get to go back to them to ask these questions when it comes to the application time. So that's also what I want you to remember, that this is ongoing learning, and these faculties are here to connect with you throughout the time. And then we go into Beyond Binary, and here we talk about the gender politics and understanding what gender is and how it has been shifting over time, and what it means for now when this world is shifting so drastically, right? What it means to be harmonious when we have been living in this very binary way of looking at gender into this new reality where everything's becoming a spectrum of expressions. And then moving into the colonial business strategy with Melanie Monaco, who has a very successful entrepreneur endeavor in healing space. And she has been a long time Minka practitioner, work exchange, started as a work exchange and now a successful business owner. So she can actually bring her experience of how to talk about your business, how to frame the conversation of sharing your authenticity, and how to make that into something that is not extractive. And last but not least, we are ending with re-envisioning the community with Baba Thasami and Dorcas Evelyn on what it means to apply all of this into your daily lives. Ooh, that was a lot, but this is 15 months of learning, right? It's very full, and it is a lot of information. But another thing that we want you to know is that this is taking 15 months in order for you to not feel rushed to go through this material, right? And each section is broken into pre-recorded lectures so you can prepare yourself to be with community, right? Even though it may feel to you that this is a little bit tech focused in some ways, but what I have come to as we are restructuring this program, having pre-recorded information is actually kinder to our nervous system. So you can actually be in your private space to receive that information, because some information can be challenging. Some information may be triggering for you. Some information make you feel like you want to just cocoon yourself. So you can do that. You don't have to do that in front of everybody. So then you get to come to the class to be with people with a little bit of preparation, with a little bit of understanding, and with a little bit of pause in between. And each month, most of the month actually includes the integration session with me. So we can integrate through conversation, we can integrate through affinity group conversation, racially or otherwise. We're going to decide that together when orientation time comes. And we can also do that by doing some practice, healing practice together. So integration is happening throughout the sessions, throughout the months, throughout 15 months. People often ask about the homeworks. Now, homeworks are often given to you as a contemplation practice, that you're going to watch the pre-recorded lecture and you would think about what you have learned. And there are some points of contemplation. You can journal or you can think about it to come to the class so you can be ready. And as a graduation requirement, we ask you to create a CAP project that shows us how you are using what you are learning in your either professional life or personal life. It can be narrative, it can be video, it can be creative work. It's just to show us how you are integrating it, right? It's not so much that we are not looking for a beautiful paper that you're going to present in order for us to see what you have learned. What we want to know is that how this has benefited you and how this can be integrated into your life, because that's really what we are interested in, that you can use it, right? And if you have question of how to do that, then we have integration sessions with me to talk about how we can look at this to see how we can insert it into your day-to-day life. And, you know, I'm not expecting CAP project theme to be completed until probably halfway through or two-thirds of the quarter, two-thirds of the time. And then we can kind of go into actual crafting of the CAP project. But what I'm focusing on is to be here with you so you have someone to talk with in terms of the learning that you are doing with different faculties, and also the questions around how to integrate it into your life, therefore your CAP project. What question comes up? Emmy actually put here, cultural appreciation becoming cultural appropriation made me think of my experience with being a doula, right? So all these thoughts and question is something that you're going to come to the class with, you know, and a lot of us come from a community. I personally come from a community organizing background. So and a lot of our learning process is in popular style education, meaning that it is in drawing from not only mine, but all of the students' wisdom in order for all of us to learn in a maximized way. So I'm really happy that you put that up here, Emmy, because that's really those questions, those comments, those experiences are the things that we're going to learn from. It's not going to be we are learning from textbooks and say you're going to read this, you're going to memorize this. In some ways, you don't have to memorize anything. You know, we live in an era, information is at our fingertips. We don't have to actually accumulate information. What we want to do is to use that information, you know, to apply to your life in a way that enhances what you believe to be your principle and your integrity. So yeah, that's what we are going to do. If there's no further question, I would like to introduce you to the faculty very briefly. We spoke about them, but I just want to show you that faculty here with you so you get to be familiar with them. And you get to see their beautiful faces here. There you go. So you met Ashni and myself, Lindsay, Aki Hirata. Ashni's teaching ancestral reverence and restoring goodness. Dorcas, Evelyn Davies, re-envisioning community. And Baba Fasami is teaching re-envisioning community with Dorcas and ancestral reverence with Ashni. I'll be teaching demystifying energy and when appropriation goes wrong as a lead faculty. And I also will teach archetype of racism. Oh, it's missing from here that Lindsay is teaching ecological consciousness and reciprocity and archetype of racism. She's co-teaching when appreciation goes wrong with me. And we have Oma, who talk about beyond capitalism. Milta talk about history of race. Fumiha is teaching foundation of breath. Allison is teaching we want to be well and beyond the binary. Melanie is teaching decolonial business strategy, and Jana Ling is teaching radical ethics. So these are the humans who collectively have over 100 years of experience, and they continue to practice what they teach. So these are not the people who are in silos, but they are working with people day to day to teach and to guide people in the subject that they are teaching with us. And I think that is very different about this program, right? We are not inviting in quote unquote experts who are only in academic fields. Obviously, some people are in academic fields. Most of them are very distinguished academically speaking. But what we are choosing these people as faculty is based upon not their level of information accumulation, but rather how they have showed up in our lives, embodying these principles that they teach, and how they are in a constant practice of decolonization in their professional lives and in their personal lives. So they are all having an intimate relationship, intimate, not romantic, but intimate in closeness, connection with me and Minka and with one another a lot of the times. And because of that, I know that you feel very comfortable and confident being with different people, knowing that we are all weaving through the same field together as a community of faculty, in relation with one another. So now is the time for Q&A. And oh wait, before that, I want to talk about registration. So registration is through website for Minka Brooklyn and also minkamysteryschool.com. And there's a section for consciousness of radical equity. If you'd like to send us an email with more questions, I will be happy to answer any questions you may have. I can also get on a call with you, and any question is welcome, and no such thing as a stupid question. So please feel free to email me or reach out to me for questions or contemplation that you have, even something relating to finances, right? I understand this is a time of tremendous challenge. We have scholarship, partial scholarship, and we also have a few work exchange positions. If the full payment is not possible for you at this moment, we also offer payment plan for both scholarship positions and the regular rate. So you don't have to pay everything up front. And for those of you who are joining here today in this open house, we will extend the early bird discount to you. So please do reach out to us so I can give you the special code. And I will also attach that to all the information that we'll be sending out. The application is due, or the registration is due by January 15th, and the program will be starting on January 20th. All right. So I'm curious to know if Ray or Emmy have any questions regarding any of the things that we have shared.
I do, and I'm still trying to formulate it a bit, so bear with me.
Yeah.
So
we always say at Minka, we love cookie dough questions, meaning that it's not formed into a cookie yet, but we appreciate it. So
I was wondering if you could talk about, like, you teach so many different workshops and hold circles and ceremonies and things like that. And I was wondering if you could talk about how core has kind of shown up in the different spaces that you host through Minka.
right. That's a very, very important and relevant question, right? Because how have I embodied what's in these things into my practice? So without all the information that we hold in core, I can tell you that Minka wouldn't have existed. I have been studying holistic wellness and spirituality for a long time, and I have always been studying, but very focused in studying for about 25 years. And within that 25 years, I've been teaching 19 years, and Minka has been in existence for 10 years. Minka was born out of my desire to have a space where people of colors lived experiences and ancestral wisdom can come through. What I have witnessed over and over in wellness and healing space is that information and technical aspects are taught, but oftentimes the human legacy part, the lived experience part, and how that is the critical part of those practices are not being taught. So, oftentimes people think that, oh, Aki wanted to create a space where people of color can learn. Sure. And my focus was to have people of color as wisdom keepers and teachers. And that understanding, that perspective wouldn't have come without my anti-racism training and without my decolonial practices. And in terms of right now, how I teach what I teach, and I think you can probably ask many of my students, is that I will not miss any opportunity to talk about decolonial process or anti-racism work or anti-patriarchal work, because I believe that most of our sufferings these days in this lifetime, from the extractive capitalism, from the culture that forces us to be quote unquote normal, to fit within the white supremacist framework of us as a standard of something like that. All of those are the suffering that we are experiencing day to day. So when I think about healing, those things are not separate from our individual healing. Our individual healing is very much connected to those thought patterns and belief system that we have been forced to live under. Now, in healing circles, I may not go that much deep into that, right? But there will be an information that will be shared because of that, because of those understanding to people who come to my circle. Now, if we were to talk about our trainings, right? Whether it's energy healing training or intuition development trainings, or I would say even like Red Priestess Path and all those things, in those classes, I go in depth about the belief system that we hold as a way to be an integral practitioner. Meaning that if we are not aware of our subconscious belief system that shows up day to day, then when we are holding space for other people, that will seep into that healing space. And that is counter to the healing that can bring, right? So when we talk about trainings and more of a longer container of healing that I hold with people, then that would be one of the focus point of my teaching very specifically. Thank you for that question, Emmy. Did I answer your question?
Yes, yes, you did. Thank you.
Of course. Anything else comes?
Not that I can think of at the moment. I know that I'm hella excited. Um, and I can't wait to join and learn and see how I develop and grow both as a practitioner, as a workshop leader, um as a writer, and seeing how it will help me to better communicate Minka's message in the newsletters and everything. So I'm really excited.
Oh, I'm so excited that you're excited. And you know, you wear many hats, and the work you do out in the world can also benefit from this understanding too. So I'm also very excited for that too. Ray, do you have any other questions?
No, I'm just also very excited for the class right now.
Thank you so much. Yeah. You know, this is our third cohort for core. We took a year break so I can really think about how I wanted to restructure to make the learning space more focused on integration, dialogue, and application instead of just dissemination of information. And I feel so good about this particular structure that we have created. And I really am so excited to have all the beautiful humans that who has this passion to create a better world, create a more harmonious world, and know that suffering doesn't have to be the only way to move through this world, because sometimes it can feel that way, you know? So I'm really, really excited to be here with you two. I'm really excited that we got to have this time together. And for any of you who have questions, please do feel free to email me. I would list all the information in the communication message, so you will have that. And please do take advantage of your discount. And I will hope to see many of you in core consciousness of radical equity. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.